Right, so we're going to have a conversation about the hospitals in Ireland, north and south. So, up north here, we're going through a bit of a crisis. The government is actively siphoning money from the hospitals. They're closing hospitals down left, right, and centre, or they're defunding hospitals, even though there's a growing population. It doesn't make sense. Now, a lot of people are saying this has got to do with the, the fact that Northern Ireland hasn't really had a government for the past couple of years, and that's only back running right now. And when it comes to the active government right now, I never really heard anything to do with hospitals. It was about helping everybody and helping all the communities, but they never really focused and said much about the hospitals. If they did, I missed that and I apologise. But I think one of the biggest issues here in the north is the hospital issue. I get it's completely different down in the Republic, but regardless, this is the island of Ireland. The health service up here is basically third world, where people can be waiting up to 16 hours just to see a doctor at A&E. Can't speak on the Republic of Ireland, but the second subject we're going to be speaking about is about the Republic of Ireland, and it's directly with the UL hospitals. This is a tweet from the UL hospitals at UL hospitals. We mark the launch of our Rainbow Badge initiative in the paediatric department at UHL. This badge is all about showing inclusivity to our young patients and encouraging open conversations about sexuality with our staff members. Hashtag Team ULHG. Now that's very, very worrying. What I mean, this is the pediatrics, this is children. So they're urging children to go to the pediatrics in the UL hospitals and have a conversation about their sexuality. I mean, what? Is there not things? Is there? I mean, is that at the top of the? Is that at the top of the list of things that really needs to be focused on here? I'm going to give you my opinion on that. Let's start off with Northern Ireland though. So our government has been activated. It's back and running. Michelle O'Neill has took the lead. She is the first minister, and she's coming out with all crazy stuff. I'm here to represent all communities. A lot of people say she's aiming that at the unionists, saying, "Look, I'm here for you." Also, I take that as the the future communities that they're trying to bring in with the open doors policies that Sinn Féin has. You see, when it comes to these people, it's the devil is in the detail, and I think Sinn Féin right now, it just has to be said. They act like they're for the Irish people. They say all the right things, but then when you actually look into their policies, they're not Irish nationalists. They're Irish internationalists. They have a complete open doors policy. They don't want a vetting process. They are quite happy for people to come into the country, rip up their passports, and have no identification, and for those people to be housed, given an allowance, and to live freely in Ireland, north and south, with and nobody knowing who these people are. This is a policy that actively works against the Irish people. And I don't care if you're going to come to me and say, "Oh, well, that's a racist thing," or "You're a bigot." This is the key words that these people use, and they use little bands and little rap bands like Kneecap to pump out their propaganda. And it's silly. It's silly because the reality of it is what they're doing is, and it's a very smart tactic. They go for the young people, indoctrinate the young people with this woke ideology, and hopefully then they will vote for us. And yes, you've got the older generation too. You've got whack jobs in the older generation that didn't mature by 15 that will vote for these policies also. And the unionist parties aren't without their shame either, because a lot of these unionist parties promote this too. You just have to go into an integrated school in the north here, and you'll see a lot of the woke ideology being promoted, and that's coming directly from the unionist side of things. So this isn't a Republican versus unionist, or a Republican versus loyalist, or nationalist versus unionist. This is a rot that has set it in the north here, and it needs to be cut out immediately and replaced with something a bit more fresh. I'm not talking about all schools, I'm not talking about all political parties, but they're definitely the main parties in the north here are woke, and they're promoting this woke ideology that inevitably down the line will destroy our democracy. You have these politicians that prioritize social issues and gender care over the actual medical care that the population needs. Now, when it comes to the hospital crisis in the north here, I'm not joking you whenever I say that they are actively closing down hospitals. The Daisy Hill, one of the best hospitals in the north, that gives the best care and one of the best hospitals for children. The government have actively targeted that to close that down. In Downpatrick, a little town just near where I'm from, they had a hospital there that was doing really, really well. During COVID, they seen their opportunities to attack that also, and now that is just one big GP unit. And to put this into perspective for you, this was a brand new hospital built a good couple of years ago, and they promised that this was going to relieve a lot of the stress. And in my opinion, they're probably going to close this down soon and turn it into a shopping mall. You know, we have to travel a good distance just to be seen by a doctor or just to be seen in an emergency. And whenever we travel up to like the Dundonald or the Royal, we're met with, I mean, crowds that you cannot imagine, crowds that would make anybody sick. And you would think to yourself, the political parties would speak up about this and say they're going to relieve this, they're going to relieve that, they're going to do this for us, but they do absolutely nothing, because what they're doing is they say one thing and they do another. They say we're going to help the situation, and then they defund another hospital or they close another hospital down. Downpatrick used to be one of the best hospitals in the land, and it relieved a lot of stress in Belfast because everybody could just travel to the one in Downpatrick. But they took all the funding away from it. It doesn't have it. It has an emergency care unit or something, but it doesn't have an A&E, and it's not the doctors and nurses' fault. They're great, but it has all this equipment and it's not being used. Now it still has it's the things that it does. It has rooms and beds, but realistically, if you wake up in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, your appendix burst, you have to travel to Belfast, and for some people that's an hour away. That's an hour and 15 minutes away. So that puts more stress on the ambulance drivers, and that's even more money that the government and the taxpayer has to pay. So while they're defunding hospitals like Downpatrick and actively trying to close down Daisy Hill, what they're actually doing is putting further stress on the big hospitals like Dundonald and the Royal. And those hospitals cannot keep up with that. If Daisy Hill closed down, the Royal and Dundonald they won't be able to cope with that pressure, because they can't cope with the pressure as it is. So where is the money going to? These are the questions I have for the parties in the north here. Where's the money going to? Because there's more people in, there's more people working, there's more money getting pumped into the economy, but it seems like the more money and people that come in here, the more money you take and put in your back pockets. And this isn't directed at one political party like Sinn Féin or the DUP. This is with all of them, every single one of them. And my personal opinion, I think the north here is one of the most corrupt places on planet Earth. And a lot of people say, well, what are you complaining for, Roland? You've got an NHS, you get healthcare free. I respect that, but I'm trying to preserve that. I've noticed a vast difference in the medical care that we are getting today than what we got 25 years ago. It's chalk and cheese. And the only explanation I can come up with is political corruption, siphoning money off into either your back pocket from the hospitals or into other needless ventures from the hospitals. Because there's a lot of shit that goes on here in the north that is just pointless and needless. There's a lot of fighting over silly things and a lot of money gets pumped into things that the money doesn't need to go there. We need to be focused on the hospitals, a duty of care. Why has the hospital situation in the north deteriorated over the past 25 years? The only answer I can come up with is corruption from all sides, the Shinners and the DUPs, the Unionists and the Nationalists. And there's not one of these political parties coming out here saying we're going to fix this because they know they can't. It's actually one of those things they can't lie about. Now, they have come out in recent years and said they're going to fix this, we're going to do this. I can't describe to you. I would rather pay £20 every time I went up to the just A&E. I'm not talking about GPs or anything like that. Just A&E. I would rather pay £20 at the door and be seen faster than put up with what's happening right now. They are not getting the support they need. I was up at the A&E one night taking my father-in-law. This was just as COVID came in. Funny enough, he had the same symptoms, and we took him up, and it was like a third world. It was like third world, and it's only got worse since then. The amount of time it took for him to get seen. There's people that go up there, old people go up there, and they're waiting for like 15 hours, 8 hours, between 8 to 15 hours just to be seen by a doctor. And the doctors on the night shift and the doctors on the day shift, they're that tired. Can you honestly say that they're giving the full care that they can give? They're understaffed. Daisy Hill has it down to a T. That's why they're trying to close down Daisy Hill, because Daisy Hill right now is the example of what a hospital is. Because they've got an abundance of doctors, an abundance of nurses, they've got a duty of care, and they go by that. And it's like an old school hospital with old school doctors and nurses. It was seen by a Nigerian doctor who was fantastic. The only person that was able to take blood from my son who's got autism. He was the only person that was able to do this, and he done it, and he done a fantastic job. So these people need support. Why is Daisy Hill the example, and why are you trying to close that place down? You should be seeing Daisy Hill as the example and implementing their policies all across the board. All these different districts with their different rules and their different strategies, it doesn't work. There's too many egos at play here in between these different districts. There need to be one person to go in and say, this is how it's ran and this is how it's going to be done. And if you don't like it, leave. Because right now you've got too many egos, and there's money being actively siphoned from the funds for the hospitals, and they're being put into stupid things in the north here. There's people here that need care. There's old people waiting in waiting rooms for 8 to 15 hours. How is that a good thing? This isn't New York. There's lots of money. Don't tell me there's no money. There's lots of money. You just refuse to pump it into the healthcare system. Hopefully now there'll be a bit of a change in regards to the activation of the government and the government coming back in, but I doubt it. I think Sinn Féin are as corrupt as any political... Sinn Féin are as corrupt, if not more corrupt, than the Democrats in America. I don't trust them, and I don't trust the DUP. I don't trust the Unionists or the Nationalists. I don't trust them, the so-called Nationalists. These people do not represent what they once represented. And they're actively pulling the wool over your eyes, and there needs to be a freshen up, and logic needs to oversee an umbrella of logic. Right now there is no umbrella of logic. You are saturating and overcrowding the waiting rooms in the hospitals. Even implementing a simple thing as, let me take your number, miss, sir, and once you're seen with triage, you can go, if you have a car to sit in, you can sit in your car, and whenever you're going to be called, we'll ring you and you can walk in. And that will relieve the stress of the waiting rooms. Something as simple as that. But you don't, because you don't have logic. There's this thing missing within the political system in the north, and it's called logic, and you don't have logic. And you are a disgrace to the people that you represent. So now we're going to move on to, we're going to talk about this now. So the UL hospitals, we marked the launch of the Rainbow Badge initiative in the pediatrics department. We encouraging open conversations about sexuality with our staff members. I mean, what? Why is there an agenda against children in the Republic of Ireland? Why are you urging children to go in to the pediatrics in hospitals in the Republic of Ireland to talk about their sexuality? Is there people trained in sexual advice to give to children? Or just because they come under the bracket of a hospital, you think you know better than everybody else? Or is it something more sinister than that? Do I need to point it out? There definitely is 100% an agenda against our children here. They want our children, they know there's a majority, a minority of our children that will saunter on into these places and seek advice on their sexuality. What advice will they be met by? Will they be met by, well, son, some people are just born in the wrong bodies? And if you get a really intelligent child to say, oh, am I intersex? No, you're not intersex. You could be trans. Oh, okay. You might identify with the LGBTQ. Here's a little rainbow badge. Go out and support your local LGBTQ organizations. The government needs to stay away from our children. The government really needs to stay away from our children. One of the greatest forces on planet Earth, it isn't the military. It isn't the big bad men on the street selling drugs, or the big bad paramilitaries like the IRA and the UVF. The IRA, the UVF, the military would all fear one entity, and it would be this: the mums and dads of society. Once they rise, everything else ceases to exist, because there is nothing as strong as a mum or a father that greatly loves their children, that are fighting for their children, because there is no barrier that we will not go through. We will crawl through the mud, we will walk through the fires, we will swim the oceans, we will fly in the sky, we will tear the skin off our back to make sure our children are safe away from these demonic demons that are trying to corrupt our children. So I would say, as a warning to the government, and not a warning, a bit of advice to the Republic of Ireland governments and the North and England and the West in general, release your woke ideology, relinquish that from your brain. Never ever come out with stuff like this again, or you could possibly be met by droves of not fighting fit migrants coming from North Africa armed with a dangerous radical ideology that Leo Varadkar houses and gives money to, and they come off the bus at 2 o'clock in the morning. You won't be met by those people. You'll be met by something even worse than that, and far greater than that. You will be met by Irish parents. And as I've just stated, there is nothing stronger than a parent's love for their child. So I would greatly appreciate it if you could stop targeting our children with this whack job ideology. If some of you believe in that, keep it to yourself. If some of you like that, keep it to yourself. If some of you advocate for that, keep it to yourself. We live in a society where everybody can be who they want to be. Why are you promoting this, and why are you actively targeting children to go along with this? You need to be very careful. You need to be very, very careful. That's what I have for you today, guys. I wanted to just get that off my chest. Thank you very much for tuning in. Peace.